Take 2005. Talking to you. So welcome back, my friend. What we're going to do in this video is we're going to learn a quick way of helping us to find our way across the fretboard, navigate the fretboard, and we're going to dispel a little bit about the myth of theory and try to make it a little more understandable and why it's useful. So let's get started. The first thing is everything we do has some kind of theory in it. I don't know anyone that doesn't know the names of the 6 strings on a guitar. So that's theory, you know it's an E and an A and a D and a G and a B and an E. So what we're talking about is a way of navigating this whole fretboard with those 6 strings and those 6 letter names. Now, if you can easily name those strings at this point, if you're just a beginner and you're still learning them, this is still a video that is useful to you. But if you can name these strings easily, then you're naming 6 notes. Now, an octave, the word 8, is when you go up a scale 8 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. When you reach the 8th note, I'll do it on the A string. When you reach the 8th note, it's a repeat of the first. I chose A because we start our alphabet with that letter. I go 1, A, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Octave, octagon, octopus. So if you know this open set of strings, E, A, D, then you look at most guitars have a double dot. This one's got one on the purfling. I chose this guitar because it's got these big pearloid, I think they're real pearl actually on this, fret markers. But the 12th fret is an easy place to spot because there's usually some kind of indication somewhere that shows a double dot or a special mark. So you'll know then that at the 12th fret on a classical guitar, I should have had one handy, you'll find that where you follow the body to the neck, that fret where the body goes, that meets it, that comes down like that, that's the 12th fret on a classical guitar. On a normal steel string guitar, you follow the body, it'll get to that fret, that'll be the 14th fret on a steel string regular acoustic guitar, steel string one. So anyway, now you know the open strings and now you know the 12th fret. Now in the old days when we didn't have tuners everywhere, we used to, or if we would go into, sometimes we'd have piano players and we'd play somewhere in a hall or a house or a bar or whatever that had a piano, and they wouldn't always be tuned to the exact 440 vibrations per second A. So what we would do is just tune to the low E. And then you'd find that as you, in some of the other videos, hoping a lot of you guys already know, if you look at any piano, you'll see the place where there's 2 white keys next to each other at E and F. One fret to the next. This is nut is just like a fret. And then the other place is at the B to the C. So you can find all the notes on the fretboard by knowing that E's and F's and B's and C's are next to each other, just like those 2 white keys are on a piano. So there's other videos that are saying this. But the reason I'm saying this is because a lot of people, I think Joni Mitchell used to just use numbers when she was tuning different tunings. She'd call this the 5, 5, 5, 4, 5. Because when you get to the 5th fret of the E string, E, F, G, A, you've hit an A. We have an A string. So we tune the A string to that pitch of the 5th fret. Maybe first we want to make sure this is tuned to an E, but once we get to fret 5, we got an A here. 2 A's. Can't do that on a piano. So then you got the 5th fret of the A, B, C, D, that gives you a D. Then you get the D, D, E, F, G. You continue. So you can start here, tune the E to something, a piano or whatever the record is you're trying to learn or whatever, and then you got the 5th fret tunes the A string to that, 5th fret of the A you tune the D string to that, 5th fret of the D you tune the G string to that. Now a lot of you guys, especially older guys, would really know this already and you're going, oh, big deal, no big deal. But some of you younger guys I've noticed don't know about this. So the 4th fret is what you got to do on the G string because that's a little quirk in our tuning. If we just look at the letter A to D, 1, 2, 3, 4, here comes the bride, that gives us 4 letters, A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, the same thing happens. I say use the letter A, like I said, because the alphabet makes it more compatible with the way we think usually about letters. So if I go to an E and I go A, E, F, G, A, E, A, here comes the bride, we wish you a Merry Christmas. You know, same tune. Here comes the bride, we wish you a Merry Christmas. So if I did a D to a G, we wish, or here comes the bride. But when I get to a G, the G isn't here comes the bride, because that's a C, G, A, B, C, but our pitch string is a B, so we got to go back a fret. Do, re, mi, 1, 2, 3, G, A, B. So we get that little quirk in it. That's annoying for us a lot of times because, you know, but you get used to it. Anyway, so now you got the 5th fret, 5th fret, 5th fret, 4th fret, the 5th fret of the B, B, C, D, E. It's 4 letters away again. And hey presto, we're back to the 5th fret to tune that high E string. The point is that when you get used to doing that, not only are you getting used to tuning by ear, use your tuner to tune the E string, and then try to tune by this method. It's the third byproduct of this video, other than a little bit of myth-busting theory and navigating the fretboard, is that you'll start to use your ear to tune your guitar, and then check it with your tuner. So rather than use the tuner as a crutch, use the tuner as an ear training aid. But now what you'll get used to is that when you think, you know, like, I don't know, let me pick an example. It's like you'll go, oh, you know, what's that note? What's that note? And you think, oh, wait a minute, that's the 5th fret. Oh, of course, it's a G, isn't it? You know, you have a landmark that's more or less in the lower half side of the fretboard, where now you're starting to think, okay, of course that's an E, of course that's a B, you know, of course that's a D, when you're looking for these notes. Now, the sort of inverse of that, which is quite a nice thing to know when you're soloing in a lot of keys, is where you can get the octave sound. So now I've got my E here. If I go up the A string, B, C, D, E, all the way up to the 7th fret, I get the octave. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E again. So that's a useful landmark. And you think, well, that's cool. Octave of the A, 7th fret on the D, right? So I got an E, the string above at the 7th fret. I say above because it's above in pitch. Okay, it's below toward the floor, whichever way you want to look at it. That string, the next string, I get an octave. That string A, the next string, I get the octave. So now I got an A and an A. It's kind of cool licks you can get out of these things when you get in it. So D string, D on the 7th fret. So then you think, okay, we've got to do the quirk in it here. So here's a G. I go up my B string, B, C, D, E, F. Oh, there it is. So now it's not at the 7th, it's at the 8th. For the same reason we had to go to the 4th here. So you get the octave of the G. Then you think about, okay, that's that set. I got the B string. I go up to the 7th fret again, and I'm back to the same pattern. But see, you'll get used to this 7th fret as being the place where you find these octaves, with the exception of that 8th fret for the G. So now what you got is you got the open set here, the 12th fret here, the 5 and the 7 here, you know? And you'll start to use other devices as well, like the 2+2 rule we've talked about in other videos, where say you're somewhere in between these frets. If I go, say, up here to this C, then I know that's a C because it's the 8th fret, E, F, G, A, B, C. And I go 2 frets higher, or 2 frets up the fretboard this way, and 2 strings toward the floor. I've been saying that a lot lately. 2 strings toward the floor. I get this little sort of an L shape if you were drawing lines on the dots of a diagram. You get your octave that way. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to use this extra little helper or landmark to get you across the fretboard. So when you're trying to figure out notes, like, you know, you need an E, well, you can think there's an E, 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 you know? And you think, well, why would I want to do that? I just want to learn to play the song. I just want to learn to play this scale or whatever. I just want to learn how that solo goes. If you want to play with other people, you're much better off being able to find your way up and down the fretboard, even just a little bit, you know. I don't know the notes instantly. My sight reading stinks really for where I should be. But the thing is that if I'm in a neighborhood that I don't know, and I know that the post office is somewhere around here, I can ask somebody, and they can tell me, go down here, take a left, take a right. You're almost there, mate. Just go straight down that way. Just a few words. Now, if I didn't speak the same language, if I was somewhere in Asia or something and I couldn't read the signs and I couldn't understand a word of what was being said, someone who was nice enough would have to take me by the hand and lead me to the post office, which is really not far away, so they might as well just do it because they're nice. You know what I mean? But if I understood how to speak this language, they could just go, oh, right, mate, it's just down there, turn left, turn right, and you'll be in there in 2 seconds, you know? So if someone's playing, you know, like saying we're playing in the key of E minor pentatonic, and you're thinking, oh, I know that scale. And then you think, I know that here, too. We're here, with that E one. You can start to find your way around. Even if you're not looking around at jumping and solo and playing licks and stuff, but someone says, you know, the song goes, it's all power chords and it's just A, D, and E. You know, you think, okay, A, D, and E. You know, you can be told what to do instead of someone walking you through it and explaining every step of the way. So this is just one of the millions of ways that really, if you know the names of the strings, you already know the theory behind how a guitar is strung. You know, if you drive a car, if you, I don't know, take up a model airplane type, you know, flying models airplanes for a hobby, there's going to be language that goes with any of these things that becomes a jargon to someone else. And that jargon usually sort of frightens other people off, you know what I mean? But really, knowing the names of your strings and being able to find your way so that someone says, oh yeah, it's just an E power chord, and you can think, well, I can do that there, I can do that there, I can do that there. Well, it's a power chord, you know? It's a root and a fifth, it's an E and a B. These kind of little things, this little bit of language, you don't have to, you know, learn tons and tons of vocabulary. Just knowing the names to find a rough map, is what I should say, of finding your way across the fretboard will just save yourself a lot of misery, because then you can have fun with it. You can take a single chord, like let's do a C chord. Oh, let's just take a C chord. I'll keep going anyway. And they say move that C chord till it becomes an F. I can C, D, E, F. Move it till it becomes a G. I could do that with any chord. I could do it with a D chord and think, well, you know, that's a D. I know that's an E because we were talking about Y, you know? But I think, okay, D and E, they're not next to each other. So now I can, a D chord, an E chord. It's got some tension in it. A G chord, an A chord. Because you're finding your way around this simple way of looking. It's not having to know every note instantaneously, being able to sort of calculate these things. You're just thinking, can I have a bit of fun by thinking, well, it's kind of cool to take an E chord, just move it up 1/2 step, and get my little, I move to Spain for a moment, F chord, you know? Or maybe I just want my folky A chord, and my nice little B chord that wants to resolve back. So it's useful, and don't let anyone tell you you don't need any theory at all. Well, you don't really need any theory at all. You'll pick up what you need as you go along, but don't be afraid of it. It's just the language used to label the patterns in music the same way we label the patterns and the mechanics of anything else. Color, geography, geometry, grammar and language, mechanics, anything. They all have their own jargon and they all have their own theory behind what makes them work. And it's just a way of communicating. And that's all that musicians communicate with a lot of times, is just the words that are used to label the patterns in Western music. So this is just landmark frets. The open position, which is the nut, which is like a fret without a finger, the 12th fret, and the two in between that give you these unisons, two same pitches, or octaves, the 8 letters away pitches, the repeat of the pitch. And I've always just remember A is easy to know. 110 vibrations, 220, 440, 880. So you're kind of having a type of unison, but it's an octave away. It's double the frequency or half the frequency, depending on the direction you're looking. And then you can have unisons, same frequencies, which, like I said, you cannot do on a piano. There's only one key for each pitch, you know, which does make it probably a little easier to read than having to think, is it that one, 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 you know what I mean? Those are all C's, right? But anyway, so that's the idea. Landmark frets, understanding a little bit how to navigate, thinking that there is a reason for it, understanding that you're going to pick up theory no matter whether you like it or not, just because your whole life, you know, everything you do in the function of life is picking up your knowledge of the pattern and the conventions and the sounds and the colors and the movements of everything, that it is a form of theory in itself. So, I don't know, hope that helps. I'm sure I'll get some thumbs down for this one. Maybe, maybe not. Anyway, have a good day and thanks for stopping in, and I'll see you next time. Adios.